morning, everyone. It is a beautiful day here at the ocean. We are at Oak Island, and we got here yesterday. We are here for the weekend. We'll be doing a little fishing. Gonna show you guys how we like to fish. That right behind me, the surf. You can see it's really calm right now, but should be some wind later, and that might pick it up a little bit. But got up early because when you're at the beach, you have to get up and go see the sunrise. Or else you get to see the sunrise and be the first people to do it. So that's what we're doing right now. We're gonna go get breakfast, gonna go get a tire fixed at Walmart, and then we're gonna do some fishing. So stick around and we will show you what little we know about surf fishing in North Carolina. Well, it is a beautiful morning out here, and we have made our way to the surf and got our rods out, which always takes a little bit longer than I'd like, but we got one big rod.
Hello, guys.
Hello, world. And two smaller rods here. And these are just set up on what we call a high-low rig for smaller fish like Virginia mullet and croaker, spot, whatever we might find. And then that big rod there over my shoulder is our drum rod. We've got a fish finder rig on that with a piece of cut pinfish. So hopefully we will catch something, and stick around and we'll tell you more about it. So we spent the morning at the surf, and it was pretty slow. So we moved and had lunch at a park that had a nice dock out into the waterway, and that also was pretty slow. So we are back at our condo and are fishing the waterway here behind the house, and so far we've already caught 2 nice fish. So stay tuned, we'll see if there's anything else. So what we have here is a croaker. This guy is a little on the small side for keeping. I'll throw him back. Say hello, Mr. Croaker. And this here is a pinfish. You'll catch a lot of these. These are definite bait thieves out here on the East Coast.
They're even worse than bluegill.
Yep, worse than bluegill for stealing your bait. But they make great bait for drum, shark, other things like that. But we're not really doing that right now.
You catch fish fast. You got one.
Oh, that's a black drum. Now this is a black drum, and this is another croaker. Now we got to measure these drum to see if they are 15 inches to keep. So I can tell you right now, he is not a keeper. Pull that on for me.
But they're a lot thicker.
Yep, pull it. All right. Nope, he is about 11 inches. Hold that.
He croaks too.
They've recently put a slot limit on these. So black drum. See ya. And another croaker. Also see ya. go, Drew.
Croaker. I think that's too small to keep. I don't think there's anyone on a croaker.
All right, so we got another croaker. Let me get him close to the camera here. You hear him croaking? That's how they got their name.
Croaker, say goodbye, bye. Whee!
Alright, so for bait out here, we're using two things mainly. Fish bites. You can buy these in big box stores, Academy, Bass Pro, Walmart probably sells them. They are the only artificial bait that I absolutely believe in and rely on. Other stuff, you know, it's hit or miss. But fish bites, I believe in it. I have caught a ton of stuff on them. And then raw shrimp. One mistake that people make when they're new to saltwater fishing is they'll go and buy frozen shrimp and think, oh, it's just as good. No, the fish are picky. They're pickier about their seafood than you are. So buy the freshest shrimp you can, shrimp that you would serve to your own family, and use that as your bait. We go to fish markets, not bait shops, when we buy our shrimp usually. And this head-on shrimp was caught that day, and $4.99 a pound. 3 pounds will last you the whole weekend. So great options.
Unless you lose it all in a day because you find a school of pinfish.
Yeah, that'll do it. Alright, this is another species. This is called a sand perch.
Our species today.
And I have on good authority that these are also good eating, so into the bucket he goes. This is a Virginia mullet. These are fantastic eating. You can tell the difference. They've got this little barbell underneath their chin, and this one hit a bloodworm fish bite. Well, we fished for a couple more hours, and the bite really slowed down, so we eventually packed it up, called it a day, got some dinner, and hit the surf at night. But once again, surf fishing did not prove at all productive, so we won't bore you with any of that. That was all for day 1 of fishing, and stick around, we'll see what happens on day 2.
June, fish. Blue marlin, bluefish, hook pump croaker, dolphin, flounder, brown king, mackerel, seafish, shark, sheephead, Spanish mackerel, spotted trout, tuna, wheatfish, white marlin, shellfish, clam, mud crab, soft crab, July.
Jed, can I see your book, buddy? All right, folks. If you want to teach your kids to read, this is what you need right here. The North Carolina Coastal Fishing Regulations Digest. Here you go, Jed. Well, folks, we are on our way to our next destination. We are leaving Oak Island now. We had a great time here at our air bed and breakfast. Yep, drinking Coke. And yeah, did some great fishing there just behind the Airbnb. So check out Airbnb if you've never used it before. I don't know that I'll ever stay in a hotel again after we discovered this. Such a great way to save a little bit of money. And usually you get a lot nicer accommodation than you would for the price elsewhere. So we are headed to a new spot, going to do a little more fishing, and we're going to see if we can't show you guys how to clean and cook your fish that you have caught, so that when you come to the beach you feel a little bit more comfortable making dinner for yourself and not having to spend so much money and time eating out. All right, so stick around and we'll be back. All right, well, we are at our next destination out here on beautiful Lockwood Folly. Whee! And Jack here just caught a nice trout. Show us the trout. Turn it sideways. There you go. All right, man. Yeah, big old teeth in there. Dinner is gonna be good. Fish cleaning table, and I am joined by my longtime friend Alan. Say hi, Alan.
Hey guys.
Alan and I go way back. We met in we were both in seminary in Wake Forest, North Carolina, and developed a friendship because we realized we both liked fishing.
It's true.
And so we pretty much hung out and fished together all over the state ever since. And Alan is a heck of a lot better at cleaning fish than I am. And we've got our catch from today. We got some Virginia mullet and some croaker, one sand perch, and a beautiful spotted trout, or speckled trout, I should say. Yep, Jack caught the speckled trout, he wants you to know. So we are going to clean these fish, show you what to do, how to do it, and then stick around. We will cook them when we get home and show you some recipes and things like that so that you can better enjoy your catch out on the water. So stick around and maybe you can learn something.
Well guys, a couple things that I like to do every time I clean fish. This is really great. We got a fish cleaning station here. We've got a hose. If you have a garden hose at home, you can use a garden hose as well, but rinse your fish off. If you've ever spent any time around fish, or you know the stereotype about fish that they're slimy, it's true because they're slimy. And so like to rinse a little bit of that slime off if you can. There's a couple different ways that we'll show you. We're going to be dressing fish. This beautiful trout here that Jack caught, we're going to fillet it. Some of these fish will probably leave whole, but come in here with a good sharp knife. You've got to have a good sharp knife. This is a mustad, and then you're going to make a slit right there behind the gills, and then take the tip of that fillet knife running down the back. You can feel the bones in the middle if you have a good sharp knife like this one. If you're not careful, you'll cut through the bones, but you just want to make a slice right all the way down to the tail, but don't cut all the way through the tail. And then you'll use these bones that run along the vertebrae. You can kind of hear a ticking sound. I don't know if you guys can pick that up on the camera or not. You want the tip of your knife to be ticking along those bones. That means you're not wasting meat. I always fillet around the ribs. Some folks like to fillet the ribs off. I'm not particularly fond of it because I don't really like eating them. There's not that much meat around them. And then you're just going to come down. And one of the keys here is do not cut this piece right here. We're going to turn this fillet around. And if you wanted to, you could scale this fish, leave the scales on and the skins on, but they're much better, in my opinion, to cut all that off. Then I'm going to run this knife right down here next to the fillet, and I'm going to slide that back and forth, kind of pushing down towards the meat without cutting through the skin. And then a lot of that red meat is gone. You got a beautiful boneless fillet here. It's got a little bit of blood on it because it's a good fresh fish. But rinse that off. Got a basically boneless, beautiful, skinless fillet that is great, blackened. It's good deep fried. You can bake them, grill them, whatever you want to do. But just a great fillet, beautiful piece of meat. The next thing we're going to do is we've got some whole fish here. This here is a great example. This is a fish that I would encourage you don't sleep on. It's a sand perch. A lot of people would say, that's a trash fish. You can't eat that. They're delicious. So you've got a scaler here. You can see how it's got almost like a serrated edge, but I'm able to run my finger across it. It's not like a knife. If you don't have a scaler, that's okay. You can use either the front side of a fillet knife like this. That'll dull your knife up a little bit, or even the back side of a fillet knife works as well. We'll do one side with the knife, and then we'll do the other side with the scaler, so you can see the difference. These sand perch aren't very hard to scale. Some fish, like black drum or red drum, are notoriously hard to scale. The old adage is you need a garden hoe to scale them. But the scaler, you see, it does a whole lot quicker job. It grabs a lot of them with all those little serrated fingers. Does a great job scaling them. One piece of advice that I would give you, if you plan on scaling your fish, eating them whole, make sure you get here around all the fins, the pectoral fins up here, around the back anal fin at the very top along the dorsal. Those little scales up there like the hide. But also make sure you keep your fish on some ice. Keep them wet. If you let your fish sit out in the sun or they're not on ice, they're going to dry out. And if they dry out, those scales are going to be a whole lot harder to put on them. So we're going to rinse off this area here just so it'll be good and clean for you guys. But now we've got a nice scaled sand perch here. What I like to do is I like to come right here underneath these fins right here and just make an incision with your knife. Come all the way around, you cut out that backbone. That right there makes great drum bait or catfish bait, but today we're just going to feed the crabs. Take your fillet knife here and run it all the way back down to that anal fin, and then make a slice straight out. You can stick your fingers in there if you want, but use your knife. You can use your knife there and rake all of that out. And you would think, well, that's job done, but it's not. Make a little incision right here as well. You got a little bloodline. I don't know what the specific term for this part of the anatomy of the fish is, but scrape a little bit of that out. Make sure that you've got all those innards out, and then take your water hose and rinse that bloodline out. Sometimes you need to run your finger up in there as well, but then you're good to go. So we're going to show you a third way to clean a fish. Jeff here, he's caught this beautiful, we call them Virginia mullets. Some people call them sea mullets. So what we're going to do with this fish is we're going to scale it, then fillet it. So we're not going to skin this fish out like you do on a trout. His skin's a little bit thinner. It doesn't detract from the taste a whole lot like a trout. So we're just going to scale it again with a scaler. Again, the scaler makes quick work, making sure you get all those scales up around the dorsal fin, around that tail fin, back here, around the anal fin, and up against the pectoral fins. We're just going to scale him good. Making sure to get all those off. If you miss one or two, it's not the end of the world. If you tried to fry or grill or bake this fish with all the scales on, when it came time to eat it, you would have a mouthful of scales, which in my opinion would not be very appetizing at all. We're going to rinse them off again. Getting all those scales out of the way so you guys can see what's going on. Typically what I would do if we weren't doing a YouTube video is I would scale them all first and then fillet them all and do all that stuff in one step. But we want to make sure you guys see everything you need to do. So again, just like with that trout, we're going to score right here behind the head. Come back around and run that knife point straight back down along the backbone. And because we're not going to skin this fish, if you go all the way to the tail, it won't be the end of the world. You see how that knife is clicking there? There's hardly any meat left on those bones. Here's another fish. If you wanted to, you could leave the ribs attached. I'm not real fond of them. So I've got a good sharp knife here, and I'm just going to cut that fillet away from the ribs. You can see the ribs in there underneath that meat. Come straight through. Virginia mullet fillet, ready to be rinsed off, seasoned, breaded, and fried. And that, I know for a fact, that is one of Jeff's favorite eating fish right there.
That's a fact.
Great fillet. One other style of fish that I'll show you, if you really are just up for some adventure, we're going to take this croaker right here. I'm going to show you how to dress a whole fish. I know a lot of folks here at the coast, especially old timers, like to eat whole fried fish. Especially with spots, sometimes you can fry them with the heads on. If you just want to be adventurous and cook a fish head on where you don't waste hardly any meat, can eat all the way up to the head, you can certainly do that as well. When I fish for trout in the mountains of North Carolina and I catch small trout in the 8 to 12 inch range, this is my favorite way to fix them and to eat them. So we're just scaling this one just like any of the others, all the way up to the head this time. Getting off as many of these scales as you can. Try not to miss any. Rinse them off. Now we're not going to get the head off with this fish, but we are going to take this fillet knife here, and instead of starting back here, we're going to, or ending right here, we're going to start up here and slice this all the way up to the gills. Then you got a big open pouch here. You can use your knife to get all those innards out. It's not quite as easy, so a lot of times I'll just stick my fingers in there. Almost all of that will come out without giving you any kind of a fit. You'll have that little blood pouch that's in there as well. You're gonna make sure to get it out. These croakers, what's interestingly enough,
Pinfish.
we got a pinfish come to the table. This little booger right here, they have their air bladders that they pound against, being part of the drum family, that give them their name croakers, where they make their croaking noise, their croaking sound. Cut that knife up just a little bit closer to the gills. And
Rod's eyelet is coming off.
Everything will be out. One of the other things that you can do if you want, you can reach in here and you can pull the gills out. I don't know anybody that really likes to eat the gills, but you can reach in there. They come out fairly easily. You can stick your fingers right through them. They'll all come out fairly easy. And I know it looks like a mess, but once you hose it all off, you have a great way to enjoy the entirety of the fish. If you want to not waste anything at all, this is a great way to do it. And get a lot of flavor as well. You get a lot of flavor out of a fish when they're whole like this. So this fish here is good to go. But I hope this guys helps you enjoy your own catch and cook.
All right, well, you've heard it from the man himself, and stick around and we'll see how these turn out. Well, good afternoon, folks. It is another beautiful day here in North Carolina, and we are back home from our trip to the beach and cleaning the fish, which you saw previously. And now it is time to cook. So we have bagged up a lot of the fish because we brought home so much, it was just more than we could eat at once. And we're going to focus on this here before me now. And I'm going to show you guys the basic way that we like to prepare our fish for a good family meal. First things first, though, we're going to get our Hush Puppy mix going using this House Autry Hush Puppy mix. This is a somewhat local brand made here in North Carolina. If you have it near you, this is the best that I have found. If you don't, something similar would probably work just fine. So this needs a few minutes to rise before you get going, so I like to always get it started first. It's pretty simple. It's just you add the mix and water together and then stir and incorporate. It's 1 cup mix to about a 1/4 cup of water, so you might have to, change that ratio to get it right. So pour in your water. And you just stir it up until it's all incorporated. And then you'll set it to the side to rise. I think it's supposed to rise for like 15 minutes or something like that. But you can really smell the spices in there, and we've tried some other brands in the past, and they just really don't compare. This House Autry stuff is phenomenal. So that's all mixed up. You see it there, it doesn't take but a second. And you want it to be about that consistency. And we will knock that off the spoon a little bit. And we'll leave it there to rise. Now, the fish, again, House Autry. This is a seafood seasoning. They make all sorts of different kinds, but this is just sort of the all-around one that we like to stick with. Unless we're doing catfish, they actually have a catfish spreader that's really good as well. And I'll just pour some of this in a bowl. And we will roll our fish in it. But before we do that, we're going to lightly coat our fish with this Tony's seasoning. It's fantastic on just about everything, and it's not too hot. The kids will still eat it, and it doesn't really do much to the flavor. Well, so we will roll these in our fish fry seasoning, and then I like to have a second clean surface to put everything on when they are done. And that way I can just carry it out to the fryer and drop it in when it's ready to go. Alright, well, our fish is breaded and ready, and our hush puppy mix has had plenty of time to rise. It's time to light our fryer and get it good and hot, ready to cook. Now, behind me we have our fish fryer. This is just a cheap one that I got from Bass Pro Shops, and I highly recommend, if you're going to do any volume of frying, that you use something like this with a propane burner. If you've got an electric fryer, it just seems to take forever for that oil to heat up. So we'll light this and get our grease hot. We just use regular canola oil, and it's a little off color because I try to reuse it at least once. This Bass Pro fryer kit comes with a basket and a thermometer. This thermometer is cheap, but it's helpful because you want to have your oil right about 350 degrees. If it's much more than that, you'll burn your fish. If it's much less than that, it won't cook fast enough. Alright, well, our oil has gotten nice and hot. It is at 350 degrees, and it's time to drop some hush puppies in. You just put them on the end of the spoon like this, and let them flop in. Alright, well, there's some good looking hush puppies. Now, the good thing about using the propane burner is that it doesn't take a whole lot of time for this to heat back up until we're ready to put the fish in. So I'm going to run in the house and grab those fish, and we will drop them in the hot oil. Let's crank it up just a little bit. Alright, we've got our fish, and we are ready to put it in the oil. Looking like it's just about right. It doesn't take very long for fish to cook in this oil. So you want to stick close by and watch When it's done, it'll sort of float to the top and you know that it's ready. And we'll get that onto another baking sheet and get it in a warm oven until we're ready to sit down. Very hot. All right, well, you can see that fish is perfectly cooked and it is ready to come out and go on the baking sheet. So good. All right, well, it is time for dinner and we have an amazing spread thanks to my lovely wife. She made us some dilly ranch potatoes, some collard greens, and then we've got our hush puppies and fish that we made. If you like this video, don't forget to click subscribe, hit that bell button so you get a notification because we come out with new videos every Saturday morning. Well, we hope you learned something. Hope you saw how easy it can be to catch fish and prepare them. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them as best I can. Well, this has been Jeff and the family with MJ Adventuring, and we hope you have a great afternoon.